Hello, hello. Welcome to a Wednesday night. So, no one's in here right now. I just got back from jogging. So excuse me if I have this towel, but I needed to get some physical exercise because just taking care of the animals and stuff, it can take a wear on your body, you know. A lot of sitting around, a lot of caretaking. Exercise is important. So, what's up, Janelle? How you doing? Is that how you pronounce it? I'm not sure. If I pronounced it incorrect, then please correct me. But appreciate you being here. Oh, Abraham, you changed names on me. What up, bro? All right, we see we got a couple people. Mgape, I think Maria was your name. Joe Chu. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Annabelle, which is really that's not your name, Annabelle. And Josh, what's your name, Annabelle? What is it? What is it? What is it? Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Let it come back to me. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Oh, you have to excuse me. I'm actually gonna go get some water real quick. So I just got back from jogging right now. Oh, let me hook up my mic real quick. Oh yeah, Lila. This mic should make things a little bit better. And hopefully, let me know if you guys can still hear me. I just want to make sure because I did not start the stream with this mic. So I want to make sure that you can still hear me. Please just put a note in the chat. So as you can tell from the name of this video, awesome, Maria, thank you. There's some stuff on my mind, but we're going to talk geckos. We are going to have some fun. We're going to show geckos if we get the chance, you know, because that's what this channel is all about, right? Promoting the hobby, having a good time, and of course, husbandry and good care. But I think sometimes people go overboard with that kind of stuff, which is kind of, you know, where this part of this conversation is coming from tonight is there's a lot of people that go overboard and they will pick on you. They'll call you names. They'll say that you're garbage, you're trash. And so I just kind of want to talk about some of that stuff tonight while we go through our night. But that is awesome, Joe. Who are you getting it from and what kind of gecko is it? Interested to hear. Let me get you one of my favorite geckos. Yes, my big boy Zeus right here. Love this little dude. He's an awesome white and yellow. Pretty nice quality. I mean, I actually got him for an amazing price from a friend of mine out here. He was only $50. He's really worth like $200 though because of his quality and everything. Yeah, this is Zeus. Zeus is in the house. I heard it's a normal wild. My place kind of isolated. Where are you from, Joe? Interested to hear. Canada, maybe Europe. What's up, Thurman? What's up? What's up? Oh, that's like if you guys ever go, I recommend the Renaissance Fair. If you guys have not been to a Renaissance Fair yet, it's like the coolest thing. Oh, Borneo, welcome, welcome. That is so cool to have someone. I believe that's like forgive my what is it called? Forgive my ignorance, but that's like in Spain or something, right? I might sound super silly, but hey, I got some gecko knowledge, but not a lot of world knowledge. My favorite gecko of yours is probably Jelly Bean. I know you love that Jelly Bean. She's done producing babies now. 16 ovulations in her first year, 14 clutches, and probably about 12 eggs. You know, because sometimes they only lay like 1 egg per clutch. So I still have to run the numbers on her, but I'm pretty sure we got 12 eggs from her. So what was I saying before that? Oh, what's up? You got to go to the Renaissance Fair. And when you do, they have this jousting tournament and they have you scream huzzah. So that reminded me of that. It's not huzzah, but kind of reminded me of it. I don't know if my lungs are having a hard time breathing because I just got done jogging or if it's because of the mealworms in here, but yeah, so we got this guy. We're going to hold this guy for a little bit. Just kind of see where the night takes us, but been spending weeks on how to keep on crickets as a feeder. You want to keep crickets as a feeder? You want to keep crickets as a feeder. So you're saying that you choose crickets instead of like mealworms or something. That's okay. You know, a lot of people use mealworms for leopard geckos, but crickets will work just as fine. There is a theory, and this is just a theory, that crickets are a little bit more of a parasite risk. But then again, everything is a parasite risk. And these animals come with natural parasites in them from, you know, from their natural lineage and bloodlines anyway. So it's nothing to really worry about. But crickets are a lot more sensitive of an animal to take care of. Mealworms you could literally throw in your fridge at 50 degrees for 3 months and they'll be perfectly fine. Crickets, you actually have to put in a bin. You have to keep the humidity high. You have to make sure they have constant food source, water source. They're a little bit to take care of, and they really smell. So that's my that's my spiel on crickets. Why I don't like crickets. Junior, what is going on, my man? Welcome, welcome. Good to see you in the house. We got brother Zeus right here. So we'll kind of get into some of the topics that were kind of on the title of this live stream, but there's some bullying going on. There's some name calling going on, and, you know, towards me. And I don't, you know, I just want to speak out a little bit towards that because I know a lot of other people get bullied. A lot of other people get name called, and I don't think it's right. No matter what your view is on somebody's principles, their morals, their ethics, their values, you know, acting like they're worse than you or belittling them is not the answer, guys. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. My crickets die faster than my worms. Yeah, crickets do die faster. They're such a sensitive species, and that's why I was saying, should I put Zeus on my head? Look, he's got a paradox spot right there on his tail. It's pretty cool. Now, Zeus has never pooped on me before, but there's a first time for everything, right? So hopefully this is not the first time for this. My Leo likes crickets more. Yeah, some Leos get used to one specific food. What's going on, Jacob? Let me speak on that real quick because this might help somebody. We have a baby black knight leopard gecko. It's a baby. Let me show her actually. Check out this girl. This might help somebody, so I want to share this little bit of information. So this girl right here, you see her? You see how little she is? She looks like a baby leopard gecko. She's actually about 6 months old. She has been a slow eater for us ever since we got her about 3 months ago. Yeah, she's really cool. And she's also really expensive. And so this is going to kind of be a little bit of a lesson, you know, it's a reminder for myself and a lesson for anyone who hasn't heard this before. But here's what happened with this little gal right here. So black knights in general, some of them can have a little bit of a smaller body size to them. I can show you some of my adult black knight females here that are the same size as basically a juvenile regular leopard gecko. So this normally doesn't happen, guys. Sometimes you run into runts with inbreeding, such as tangerine lines, black knight lines, or, you know, bold stripe, whatever it might be, anything. Oh, she is absolutely tiny. Here's what I discovered. I've been observing her for the 3 months that we had her. She's never shown to me that she was not eating, but she was eating at such a slow rate where she was not growing. And then today, I just realized today that her tail was actually getting a little bit skinnier and she was losing weight. And I was like, oh no, that's not good. So I made a decision to put her in a smaller tub. And I also remembered that sometimes geckos that are having problems eating, you want to put them in a smaller tub so they feel more secure, number one. Number two, you want to put their water dish as low to the ground as possible and their food dish as low to the ground as possible. The reason is as little obstructions as possible is what you want for this gecko to not get in the way of her eating her food. And also, here's another thing that I learned. The supplemental powder, 1 in every 100 geckos. It's a pretty rare occurrence, but 1 in every 100 geckos happens to not really prefer or like the powder when they're a baby. Now, the powder is good for them because the powder is calcium and supplements. So I've never noticed her getting smaller or getting skinnier. You know what I mean? But today I definitely noticed that something was going on. So I moved her into a smaller tub. Not only did I give her worms normally with her vitamins and her calcium, but I also threw some worms just on the ground. Regular worms with no dusting, no calcium, no vitamins, because sometimes that little trick helps them to get going. It helps them to get eating. If they are picky or problematic, you know, give them insects that aren't dusted. Like I said, it's very, very small rating. 1 out of every 100 geckos actually gives you a problem. But this little gal just so happens to be one of our most expensive geckos and just so happens to prefer no calcium or no vitamins. So we're going to start. So I threw some regular worms on the ground so she could eat those. And then she also has worms in her calcium dish so that every once in a while, when she eats one of those worms in her calcium dish, she's still getting that D3, that calcium, and those vitamins she needs to grow up big and strong. Guys, I was feeling a little discouraged earlier. Her tail was skinnier. She was smaller. But guess what? Today, I just put her inside of this tub just an hour ago, and she's starting to eat. She's smashing these worms. These little worms that we got on the ground, she is eating them, eating them, eating them. And so let it be a lesson, you know, for all of us that, and a reminder for me, I didn't even think about this, but some baby geckos, especially geckos that are born into life with a little bit more challenges, like inbred geckos, tangerine geckos, sometimes they start off a little bit smaller, a little bit runty. Some will, not all of them. But if you do notice a gecko not growing fast, not eating well, one of the things you could try is moving it into a smaller bin, lowering its water dish, lowering its food bowl, and giving it an option for food with vitamins and food without vitamins. And she is smashing. She was eating those worms like crazy today. And I'm very hopeful for a recovery for this girl and the results of what I've seen so far. So we're going to get her put back. And just wanted to kind of share that 2 cents with you. Yeah, sometimes when they're shedding, they won't eat. This was a little bit different situation because this is a baby gecko. I've noticed this with, I had 2 runt baby tangerine leopard geckos, and Jelly Bean was actually one of them last year. Believe it or not, I thought Jelly Bean was not going to make it. And Jelly Bean was more of a runt and smaller than Candy Corn. This is Candy Corn. Candy Corn is a 2-year-old gecko, but she is as big as a juvenile gecko. She has a little bit of muscle and aiming issues. Part of that could be because of tangerines have been inbred for so long in the American market, the Chinese market, the European market. Sometimes, every once in a while, these heavily inbred morphs, you're going to notice defects with them. Now, it could be natural variants of defects, or it could be linked to the fact that she is so heavily inbred. The reason is because in our leopard gecko hobby, unless you're going to the black market, which I'm not a part of, I don't condone, I don't know anything about the black market. Unless you're going to the black market, no new leopard geckos are being imported into the leopard gecko hobby. Does that make sense? Because leopard geckos are from Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Turkey, all of those countries that we don't have open animal trade with. So because of that, we're stuck with all the leopard geckos that we have in captivity, which is why pure species are so important, because we will take black knights, which have been heavily inbred, tangerines, which have been heavily inbred, and start crossing it into pure species lines so that this hobby can continue on for the next 40, 50 years, you know? And hopefully one day trade will open back up and we'll be able to, you know, do trade with other countries and whatnot. So, or those countries again. So anyway, let me get back to Jelly Bean. Jelly Bean was more stunted than that girl. Jelly Bean was crawling on her elbows because she was not eating, so she wasn't getting calcium, and she was falling way behind in growth. So here's what I did for Jelly Bean. I removed most of her obstacles. I think I gave her a little low water bowl to the ground, like a little cap water dish. I removed her food bowl, which most of the geckos can get into that food bowl, no problem. And I just started dropping worms in front of her onto the ground. Same thing that I did with that Black Knight right there. That gives them a tendency to eat those worms more. She made a full recovery. She's the gecko that this year, as a first-year breeder, had 16 ovulations, 14 clutches, and 12 eggs. Pretty amazing stuff. That gecko, which I thought was actually going to make a better recovery than Jelly Bean, did not make a full recovery. You can see when she moves, she is uncoordinated. She misses her food, and it's a shame because she's such a beautiful, beautiful color. And I had another gecko this year as well, which was a deep tangerine. This girl is even a red stripe. You can see those red stripes on her. A deep, colorful tangerine, emerine, beautiful colors. Sometimes the beauty of those colors comes with a cost. It's that the saturation and the genetics are so jumbled up in that DNA that it can create stunting. It can create defects, you know? So you just want to be aware of that. If that happens, I call it special needs geckos. Sometimes you have to give them the bath. Sometimes you have to drop the food in front of them. You can't give them high things to climb up on like other geckos. They require special care and attention. Soul Vanish, I have a serious question. My nephew placed a juvenile male with 2 of my juvenile females, and both females are ovulating and gravid because of him. What do I do now? I need help. So check out my video on, I have a video on how long does it take for leopard gecko eggs to hatch. I also have a video on, are my eggs fertile? And I also have a video on incubating leopard gecko eggs. So you could check out all 3 of those videos. Email me at GeekyGeckoCreations@gmail.com. Message me on Facebook or Instagram, and I will help you out. But it's going to take a lot of research for you to get comfortable and visual cues for you to get comfortable with what to do. What's up, Jay? Soul Vanish, more than I can explain right now in like just a few minutes. So watch those videos would be my encouragement. And email me if you need the links to those videos, but go to my video history of YouTube and I have an incubation video. You need to watch the incubation video if you want to hatch those eggs successfully. If you don't care whether those eggs hatch or not, then just carry on as normal. The female will lay the eggs. The eggs will, you know, she'll either reabsorb the eggs or they'll die, you know. 2 of my juvenile females, both females are ovulating and gravid now because of him. So the other thing you could do is separate the females so that the females, dang, Sean Robinson, I know who you are. I've been meaning to text you back, brother. I'm sorry. It's been a hectic last week, you know. I apologize. You and another good friend of mine, you were messaging me on happy birthday and how's things going, and I didn't get back to you, so I apologize for that. But Mr. Robinson, I appreciate that. #1 fan with the sticker. That's super cool, bro. Super cool. I was wondering what stickers look like. That's awesome. When is the right time to buy leopard geckos on Morph Market? Any time of year. People put them up. Any time of year is good. A lot of babies tend to pop out in the spring, but most breeders, like myself included, will have babies throughout the year popping out. So constantly look on Morph Market. I also have 2 videos on how to use Morph Market for beginners and how to use Morph Market for advanced keepers. There's some cool tips and tricks to find the best quality stuff for the best price. Check out that video. It will definitely help with that. Yeah, invest in a nice male because that nice male can be bred to a bunch of mediocre females. So it's super good. Someone else gave $5. Jay, once again, brother, I appreciate it so much. I have watched every video. I breed leopard geckos, but I never had an issue where someone would force my young females to breed my breeder males. Would the young females get hurt? So we have about 8 breeder females that went into breeding this year that are under 40 grams. They're between 30 to 40 grams. That's typically thought to be too small for comfort, but I wanted to get some experience and some actual data with what happens to those eggs. So I will be recording that data this year the females will lay the eggs, right? Because when a gecko is in the wild, before they breed, the male is not like, hey baby, how big are you? What's your sign? Like, so the male gecko is simply just going off of a pheromone response. And I have had plenty of geckos under 40 grams start ovulating, which means if they were in the wild, they would be ovulating, which means if they were in the wild and came across a male, they would be breeding. And their biological senses would have to get past it. Now, if I start notice like geckos falling off the face of the earth, dying, getting stunted, I'll definitely share that news with you. My recommendation right now until my results come out would be to breed geckos over 40 grams. But if it's already happened and your gecko girls are small, separate them from the male. That will reduce the stress of them living together, and make sure she has calcium and vitamins. That will help her through her pregnancy. Make sure she has plenty of water. And if she gets egg bound or those eggs get stuck in her longer than 3 weeks, it's not necessarily because she's a small gecko, because I have plenty of big geckos that get egg bound and they don't pass the eggs, or they pass the eggs months later. So it's not necessarily related to size. Although size may play an issue into that, I don't know yet because I don't have the data. So you'll want to just separate the females if possible, let them live on their own, give them fresh water twice a week, make sure their hide is humid once a week, make sure they get fresh food with vitamin and supplements twice a week, and that will give them the best likelihood and chances of success. Hey man, so how many eggs have hatched for you, and what's the longest female eggs can hatch? So very funny, Jay. I have an egg in the incubator right now that's going on about 90 days. That's crazy. I talked to a few other big breeders. They have never seen an egg hatch over 65 days. I think what happened is either that embryo stopped developing in there, or the baby gecko couldn't get out of the egg and it drowned in the egg. I heard that when you cut open gecko eggs, it can severely injure the gecko. Unlike ball pythons, how people cut open ball pythons and let them come out, that's a thing after 60 days. That's not really a promoted thing in leopard geckos, so I didn't want to do that. So I gave it some extra time to hatch, and we're going on about 85, 90 days now, and it still hasn't hatched. So soon I'm going to cut that egg open, and I bet you I'm going to find a deceased baby in there, unfortunately. So the longest that a female has ever hatched or, incubated an egg was 65 days. The longest that a female has ever held eggs inside of her for me was about 4 months. And she was egg bound for 4 months, no matter what I did, warm baths, tummy massages, food, water, clothing, etc. She would not lay those eggs. And she's doing it again this season. So, and I have other geckos that are doing it this season as well. So, sometimes that stuff happens. You just kind of have to bear with it and do your best, give them baths and everything. If possible to video chat together, I can show you everything I got. Yeah, Solvaners, message me personally on Facebook. We could do a video chat and I can check out some of your stuff tomorrow. We could set up some time to talk. And thank you, Harris. Yeah, check out the videos. I always encourage people to check out the videos because I can answer questions here. Don't get me wrong. I can go to the incubator and show you things, but the videos were designed to cover every bit of knowledge I could think of regarding that topic. And in my opinion, it's really going to help to watch that video and then come back and ask me questions, because I'm actually showing you step by step over the course of a 20 to 40 minute video, everything. I separated, gave them calcium, water, both show their eggs. Let's just hope they stay. Yes, fingers crossed. Let's hope that everything is good, Soul Vanish. Try not to worry. A lot of beginner gecko daddies and mommies worry for no reason. Sometimes things are preventable. Sometimes things are not preventable. I had a friend today that called me up and he's like, hey, these eggs are not looking good. Guess what? Both eggs had dead embryos inside of the babies. Was it his fault? Possibly. Could he have done something different? Possibly. Could it not have been his fault? Possibly. We just don't know. Sometimes there's variables. Make sure you got all your bases covered. Other than that, there's always a chance for things to go wrong biologically and naturally, even without you making a mistake. I have a 7-year-old female, and she has eggs, but she was not introduced to a male. 7-year-old female. She has eggs, but yeah, that can happen. Sometimes females will start to make eggs. Usually they will, it's called reabsorb those eggs if there's no male sperm to make those eggs fertile. It's possible that she will lay a couple clutches. So it's up to you if you want to pair her. But if you don't want to pair her, that's perfectly fine as well. Mrs. Sage Quiggle. Yes, it has been. I actually posted this live stream for you and for people related to you to possibly come in and have a voice as well, right? It's easy for me because I have a voice on a platform. But anyone who doesn't know, Sage, I believe it's you, Sage Quiggle, because she's asking, hate me yet? And I believe that you are a she just based on the Sage and the Quiggle. I am not a confrontational person, guys. I am not someone to hate somebody or, right? Jesus said, love your enemies. So no, I don't hate you, Quiggle, although you are kind of being an enemy to me right now. This whole video topic is actually based around your statements and other people's statements, you know, that are similar to you, that have been sending me hate mail, right? Not so much threat mail. I mean, no one has like threatened my life or anything like that, but threaten my, I guess, my name, my, what is that called? Your reputation. You know, that's actually a crime if you think about it, slander and whatnot. You know, I'm not saying anything bad about you, Sage, because I don't know you, and I know that your hate towards me has good intentions because you care about animals. So, but my whole thing with the labeling of this topic, no matter if you have a disagreement with somebody, in my opinion, it's not okay. And I've made this mistake. I'm guilty of doing this. It's not okay to bully. It's not okay to name call. And it's not okay to hate on that person, right? Love your enemies. Try to get along with people that you disagree with. Coexist, cohabitate. You know what I mean? I know that I believe, I mean, I don't know too much about you, but I believe that you're a caring person in the leopard gecko community. So no, I do not have hate for you. Soul Vanish. Questions. How often should I check the eggs in the incubator? Check them as little as possible. I only check my eggs every 2 weeks when I open up the egg container to put the new eggs inside. If I did not have to put new eggs inside, they could literally sit in that egg container for 60 days and then they'll hatch and it won't be a problem. Eggs do not need that much oxygen. As long as you have them in an airtight container, the amount of oxygen that gets sealed in there will be perfectly fine. Jacob, I missed your question. Oh, 7-year-old female. Yeah, so her tail's going to get a little bit skinny. Make sure that she has calcium. Make sure that she has vitamins and nutrients to fatten her up. Try dubia roaches. Try mealworms. Try superworms. Try crickets if she's not eating. If she is eating, then just make sure she has those supplements and she'll bulk up, no problem. I want to show you all my stuff as well. I have about 30 right now. 30 geckos? That's amazing. I was wondering what kind of male is neat for Tremper projects. I have a Tremper Sunglow, Tremper Maxno, Tremper Eclipse, Het Tremper, Raptor, trying to think. So Tangerine and Tremper go great together. Here's a reason, because Tremper has been around the longest as far as all the 3 albino strains. So you can find some pretty good quality Tremper albino tangerines, like orange Trempers, for pretty good prices, and they look like Charmander, so that's pretty cool. What type of incubators do you recommend? I recommend Reptibator first, Hovabator second, and then self-made incubators third. Unless you are a very do-it-yourself kind of person, then go with the self-incubator first because it's going to give you the most bang for the buck. However, I started off with Reptibators and Hovabators. They're both about $50 models and they're great. But watch my video on incubation because the temperature you set it to is on the incubator itself is not the temperature of the air temperature of where the eggs are sitting. So you need to be careful about that. In the pictures I showed you, is it for sure she absorbed her eggs? Maria, if you could resend me those pictures. I don't remember if it was by email or by messenger, but resend me those pictures. I'll take a look. Reabsorption normally looks like the ovulations get bigger and bigger. They get redder and redder, sometimes even a little bit white. And then all of a sudden, nothing. Like the tummy will look clear. And then the tummy will look white. I mean, you won't see any pink. And then those small pink ovulations will start to grow again, over the course of the next week. So normally ovulations start and they grow for about a 2 to 3 week period. If that female is paired during that period, those ovulations will turn into eggs over that 3 week period, and then the female will lay those eggs. And then 2 weeks after that, she'll lay another set of eggs. So she ovulates every 2 weeks for simplicity, if you want to look at it that way. She ovulates every 2 weeks for about, 6 to 16 ovulations. It can vary depending on the female. So you'll want to just keep an eye out for her ovulations. As you see the pink dots getting bigger and bigger, it's getting closer to her growing those eggs in her tummy. But it's usually a 2 week period that she will absorb them in and then start her new ovulations. I do really genuinely want to hear what you have to say. Yes, it is me. Haha. Well, I'm glad you can laugh with me, Sage. That's a start, right? And I do have something to say. Let me get through all the questions right here. We'll kind of talk about it a little bit. Actually, I'm going through the order of the questions, so I don't want to keep going through questions because then I won't come back to you, Sage. So I appreciate you being here, Sage. This whole video, guys, is geared towards, and I don't want to put the hate on Sage, but people like Sage that have given me what I would call bullying or unnecessary hate mail. Does it hurt my feelings sometimes? Yes, but at the same time, do I want to use this platform as a way to help others that maybe it hurts more? Sure. I understand, Sage, that your attacking of me comes from a place of care for the geckos. So this whole thing with a lot of the controversy coming towards GeekyGeckoCreations and my ethical standpoint on breeding animals started from when I made a video about the Lemon Frost Project. So now, for anyone who doesn't know about the Lemon Frost Project, it's about an 8-year-old project, maybe 10-year-old project that came out of Europe when the gene was first discovered. The Lemon Frost gene makes some outstanding looking animals. However, the animals have a tendency or a proneness to develop tumor-like bumps, lesions, or cells over their body over time. Not every gecko has this tumor-like tendency, and depending on the actual tumors, some geckos have it much worse than other geckos have it. So it is a problem in the leopard gecko world. It's a problem in Asia. It's a problem in Europe. It's also a problem in America. So let's see. What do I want to say about this topic? About the Lemon Frost topic. So as soon as you post something controversial, a lot of times there's people that don't agree with you that will automatically judge you. And that's part of where this conversation comes from, Sage, is before you even got a chance to know me or to understand my perspective or ethical standpoint on just the hobby as a whole or reptiles as a whole, or even talk to me behind closed doors, you made a total judgment call on me saying, oh, because he has chosen to breed this specific line of gecko, he is an unethical person. That statement in of itself is very narrow-sighted and hypocritical because there's a lot of things that you do that I could judge or that other breeders do that I could judge, but I don't judge it or I don't call it out because it's not my place. Because I know the intentions of their heart. I know who they are. I know that they don't have malicious or foul play intentions in mind. And so there's a lot of topics in the leopard gecko world that could be judged bad for all of us, correct? Let me talk about the topic that you're here for on the Lemon Frost, and then I will relate it to other topics and how it's hypocritical to judge somebody who's in the Lemon Frost Project. The Lemon Frost Project is it's a new project, okay? Because when the project first got discovered that it had these tumors, the people that originally started the project, they gave up the whole project basically to science. And there was a couple research papers written on the lemon frost genetics. Both of those research papers that were written, I went over in extreme detail with a medical physician, practicing medical physician doctor. We talked about all the scientific lingo. We talked about everything that the study showed, everything that the study did not show. In Poland, the study that was done in Poland showed that the tumors were not painful, number one, that they couldn't conclude that the tumors came specifically from the lemon frost gene, number two, that geckos without the lemon frost gene, but that came from lemon frost parents, also had the tumors, number three, so maybe it's not completely linked to the actual lemon frost gene. And number four, something really interesting happened, which is the leopard geckos that had the tumors had high concentrations of iridophores, which is a cell that reflects light that is in other species of reptiles, but not normally in leopard geckos. It's normally in chameleons. So how did these iridophores get created inside of this gecko? Number one, that's something that deserves some scientific research, because this is something that is unknown to leopard gecko species for the last hundreds of years that leopard geckos have been adapting and evolving. Leopard geckos have never had iridophores. They've always had melanophores, which is black pigment and coloration. They've always had xanthophores, which is red, orange, and yellow pigment or coloration. But they've never had iridophores, which is reflective cells, which also appears to be causing the tumor-like problems in the geckos. Except there's a problem. The UCLA study that did the research on the location of the lemon frost gene that is known in other animals to create tumor-like situations, they could not conclude, or they could not conclude that location was the problem. On the contrary, what they did conclude is that the development of cells in that area, also protein in that area, cells/protein, if the lemon frost gene in that area of the DNA specifically was 100% causing the defects, it would have caused a change in cellular structure as well as protein development. And it did not cause a change in cellular structure or protein development. The conclusion of the UCLA study, which was done here in America, was also inconclusive towards what exactly is causing the problem. So that being said, we have people in the hobby. I also heard this. I read that when the lemon frost gene was first sold in the United States, there was a big argument that happened with two of the top breeders, and it caused a lot of tension around the lemon frost gene. One breeder went bashing the gene. I don't even know who the breeder is. I just heard this. Another breeder, or whatever, the other side of the argument, went in support of the idea that we still don't want to put the nail in the coffin for the lemon frost gene because we don't know exactly what's causing the problem, and it's possible that we might have a solution for the problem. And so there have been other breeders before me. I'm in generation 3 right now of trying to help create a solution, but there have been other breeders before me that are 4 years deep into the project, seeing no tumors. Another thing that you see with lemon frost, very short faces, very short bodies, very big eyes and heads, a lot of weird looking, like kind of what you would picture like nuclear testing type body features. That does not exist in any of the projects that I'm working on or the generations of the projects that came before me. So I hope you understand, Sage, that it's not that I'm working on a project that is actually producing animals to be worse. I'm working on a project that is hopefully producing animals to be better. Just like the Enigma gene, no one is going to stop breeding lemon frost. It is not going to happen. But if we could help give people a different option to go down to show, hey, if you breed the lemon frost this way, you will have no defects or very low chance or likelihood of defects, I would say that that's actually doing the hobbyist a service rather than what I think a lot of breeders are doing, which is scare tactics, threatening people, covering it up, not wanting to talk about it, not knowing the science behind it or how to interpret the research papers behind it, and just saying, oh, because I was told this is bad, it is bad, without even doing the research themselves or really like understanding the research. So that's my whole perspective, Sage. To go on a little bit more with the rant, I'm going to what is it called? Digress. I'm going to digress off of that rant and possibly bring up a different perspective later. But I want to help some people out, answer some questions here. I have a yellow carrot tail male and female. Both of them hatched from one egg. The male is going to be my breeder. He has beautiful... They hatched from one egg, so they were twins? That's awesome. That's awesome. My Facebook is GeekyGeckoCreations. You can find me on any platform, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, email, GeekyGeckoCreations@gmail.com, website, GeekyGeckoCreations.com. It's all Geeky Gecko Creations. You message me on any of those platforms, I will definitely get back to you. Red spots, that's pretty cool. What is your response to the recent study on LF that has proved there is no separating? First of all, Oklana, there was no study that proved that there is no separating the gene from the tumors. That's only people that say that there's no separating the gene from the tumors. If you actually read the study, which we'll probably wind up doing one day, if you actually read the study, both the Polish study done in 2015 and the UCLA study done recently in 2020, last year, or it might have been 2021 when they released it, both of those studies showed that there was no change in cellular development or protein development in the area that they were claiming where the defects were happening. For a defect to occur, it would cause cellular change or it would cause protein development change. The defects, now let me say this, there were changes in genetic code, but the changes in genetic code, the slight variances in genetic code that differed from non-lemon frost geckos, those slight changes did not cause a protein development change or it did not cause a cellular development change. So that's what I would say to that is the study is actually unconclusive. The Polish study shows that, and Poland had these geckos in their laboratories testing it way before America did. And the American study actually shows towards the bottom of the paper as well that everything is inconclusive. They have not come up with a reason or an explanation for what is actually causing the tumors, which means that there could be an answer, an easy answer or solution out there that everybody is just ignoring. And certain people like myself that are working on the project, what we are doing is we are actually breeding it into a completely different set of DNA. The Turkmenicus DNA is not just a subspecies, it's classified right now as a completely different species than Macularis. And the geckos we're seeing have normal eyes, beautiful faces, beautiful long lengthy bodies, no tumor developments, and still retain that lemon frost color contrast and coloration. So we are seeing hope 4 years into the project. We are seeing hope into this project, and that's why we are pursuing it. But people like yourself that might be only listening to one side of the preaching on the project, all of these breeders that already have their mind made up, of course they're going to tell you to follow them. I'm not even telling you to follow me. I'm just saying that, of course, they're going to tell you to follow them because they don't want to feel like they're missing out. You know, they don't want to feel like, how should I phrase this? Not that they're missing out. They don't want you second guessing them, or they are so confident because people that they know are confident in it. But hey, if everybody, you know, there are so many controversies in history, and if every single time a controversy came up, we just stopped, that is not the answer. We would have never made it to the moon. We would have never discovered that the earth is actually round and not flat. We would have never discovered about how light refracts in the atmosphere and why the sky is blue. We would not have understood any of those things if it wasn't for people pushing through controversy. And so that's what we're doing. We're pushing through the controversy. We have some hope. Guys, I am not cruel. I would not be doing this project if there was not hope. I have 3 lemon frost geckos in my collection right now. I have plenty more on the way. I have other breeders that have lemon frost genetics in their project. The specific project we are working on is diluting the natural bloodline of where the lemon frost came from to see if that helps strengthen, freshen, and completely take away the tumor issue, or take it down to such a low level that there are no protrusions or any noticeable issues or any health risk to the gecko. That is our goal. That is what we are doing. We are not producing geckos for the sake of defectation. That's not even a word, but what's your opinion on the new studies? Okay, I think someone just asked that question. I answered on it. So you're handpicking your study results? No, we have in detail studied the Polish study and the UCLA study. There are only 2 papers out there. It was a couple months ago when we studied this. There might have been one more reference, but there's 2 papers out there. And guess what? Both of those papers are not even published. They're not even backed up by scientific professors saying that the information is correct. So it's all just theory, and also the information that those research papers say is, if you read at the very bottom of the paper, inconclusive to what is causing the problem. I know, Janelle, I know it's a lot. I'm sorry. I don't want to get caught up in too much stuff without being helpful, but some of the people that are asking these questions, they're also some of the people that have been really, really negative towards anybody that voices an opinion against them. And I just want to say to these people that that's not right. You shouldn't jump down people's throats, and you shouldn't call them names. You shouldn't make threats to their business. You shouldn't make threats to their ethical standpoint, their personality, and who they are without even knowing who they are, just because someone has a different opinion than you. Number one, that's the main takeaway by the title of this section. So links to the studies. Mar, those links exist through so many of the people that you probably know, but if you really want the links, they are so hard to understand, guys. You need a medical brain to really understand this stuff. But thankfully, I have a medical team member on my team here at GeekyGeckoCreations, a very astute medical professional that can actually understand the research and what's going on. And we also have data over the last 4 years to suggest that it's possible that through outcrossing into pure bloodlines, that genetic defects can be taken away completely or possibly reduced to a significant, insignificant level. Iridiaphores have always been present in Leos. They're what caused the appearance of the Murray battle. No. Oklana, if you read the Polish study, you can see that most leopard geckos in the wild, they might have a small amount of iridiaphores, but not a large amount of iridiaphores. And the Polish study, the American study never even touched on this, but the Polish study never even claimed 100% that they were iridiaphores. It said they were iridiaphore-like. Much more research needs to be done here. I understand that a low likelihood of tumors is not an option for you, Sage. Let me say this, just for Sage and giggles, Sage and quiggles. Are you happy risking the life of your gecko, shipping it across country overnight? You know that there's dozens of animals a year, maybe hundreds of animals a year, just in the United States that die from overnight shipping, that die from wholesalers in the United States that are provided animals by large breeders that you guys look up to. Those animals die or get sold at pressure at, or those geckos get sold at what is it called? Spontaneous purchase points like pet stores, reptile specific pet stores. It gets sold to people that don't really know how to take care of the animals, and they die. How is that any more ethically more of a risk than what I'm doing trying to make the lemon frost better, than the risk that we as a hobby take every single year, importing animals that die, supporting poachers that pull animals out of the wild for our own passions, desires, and our hobby, And I'm okay with that. My ethical standpoint is I'm okay on that. But I just want to point out to you that if I really wanted to nitpick, you're supporting the poaching of animals from the wild. You're supporting the shipment of dead animals. Have you ever seen a dead animal arrive in the mail? You've been posting all of these pictures, controversial pictures of really bad lemon frost geckos. What if I posted a really bad picture of a dead gecko that arrived? And is the breeder that took the risk of shipping that gecko, did they not do their research about the storms that were coming? Did they not care about the risk that was associated with overnight shipping and the probability of things going wrong? No, it's that they were okay with the risk. I'm okay with the risk of the lemon frost. I'm okay with that because I've seen a lot of hope. But if I really wanted to get nitpicky, are you okay with the risk of hundreds of animals arriving dead to people's doorsteps every year? Are you okay with the risk of supporting a hobby that pays farms in other countries to pull animals out of the wild so that we can use them for our entertainment purposes? Are you okay with the risk of incubating leopard gecko eggs and some of them dying, embryos not forming, incubator temperature spikes that kill animals? Are you okay with the risk of these things? Because if you're okay with the risk of these things, then possibly I could say the same thing to you as far as being unethical. So, Lori, welcome, Lori. Lori, you got the links, Lori. The Polish study, the UCLA study, they're exactly the same links. I'm not going to do it now because I am on my phone. But if anybody, and this is the thing, you people who already have your mind made up, you don't care to learn. You don't care for the links. So why should I waste my time with you unless you reach out to me? You really want to know? You reach out to me, because one day we are going to do a full research study on the paper itself, but I'm confident in what the research of the paper says, you know, and if you're confident with what it says, hey, who am I to tell you not to be confident? I'm nobody, right? But you who have your mind made up already, it's no sense of talking to you because your mind is already made up. I'm kind of cruel. You're subjecting animals to cancer. Skies, you're subjecting animals to dead on arrival. You're subjecting animals to poaching and importation and mass farm breeding and deaths in incubators, deaths at pet stores, deaths to irresponsible keepers because of some of your favorite gecko breeders that sell wholesale and cannot control who their customers are. Funny, funny stuff that you can condemn me but not condemn yourself. Yeah, I'm in it for, that's incorrect, Jordan. I'm in it for the love of the animals. I love the animals. Lori, you got those links. Again, if you really want those links, you need to message me privately. You can't just come in here and spam some stuff and make me think that you actually care about the study, wasting my time when you've already got your mind made up. I'm explaining everything to you right now. The study showed that the tumors were not painful in Poland. The study in Poland, again, showed that they were iridophore-like cells, not even that they were iridophores. They couldn't even pinpoint what the problem was. And you're so confident that it's the lemon frost gene. The Polish study showed that non-lemon frost geckos that came from lemon frost bloodlines had the tumors. You know what that means? That means that it's possible that the lemon frost gene itself is not the actual problem. The UCLA study, what did the UCLA study show? The UCLA study showed that the area that they were looking at for the tumor location, the SPINT 91 area, they showed that that area did not produce different cells or different protein that would need to be produced to cause the defects. That study was inconclusive. Yeah, Oklana, I did say no iridophores earlier because we don't even know in the Polish study, they did not even officially claim that it was iridophores, nor did they say the amount of iridophores that were in leopard geckos, but they mentioned that it is not common, or a heavy dose, I'd have to reread the paper, is not common. So either way, they did not classify it as an iridophore. And even at the very bottom of their paper, they had these geckos way before us. All of this came from them. Even at the bottom of their paper, they stated that everything is inconclusive. So, Jordan, just because you never had a leopard gecko die, there's thousands of reptiles a year, locally, nationally, and internationally, that die from shipping because we love this hobby. So why couldn't I turn around and say and blame you that, hey, you're the fault of these dead animals arriving because you love the hobby? I won't do that. I would be condemning myself. And that's why I'm not judging people who breed Enigma. I'm not judging people who breed Lemon Frost. I'm not judging the Asian market, the European market. We are actually trying to make this gene better by outcrossing it. There are other people in the world that don't care at all about the quality of the geckos that come out of this gene. We actually care about the quality, and we're actually putting in a lot of time, data, and research to produce better quality animals. And guess what? We have animals that are good quality. I want to hold one right now, but they like to poop on me. Should I hold one just for sake of... Okay, Sage, Lori, all you guys, this is the gecko that has problems, right? Look how beautiful this gecko is. Long, lengthy, perfect tail, perfect snout, perfect size eyes, no tumor lesions. Yes, this gecko is it's still young. It's a year old. And so there's much more that needs to be done. But there are geckos in this project that are 4 years old and still showing no tumor developments. This project is in generation 3. What generation 3 means is that we took an original defected lemon frost and bred it to a pure Turkmenicus bloodline 3 years in a row, so that this gecko right here is actually 87.5% Turkmenicus. It's only 12% macularis. And you could see it has a beautiful face structure, body structure, tail structure. It's even more beautiful than a lot of tangerines that we have in the hobby, because tangerines are so heavily inbred for the last 30 years. That's another thing. Don't you know that all the biggest breeders, they probably don't tell you that they hatch out runts. They hatch out defects because of how inbred these animals are, because we can't get any imported anymore from the wild. But no, you won't condemn them. Inbreeding's okay as long as it only produces runts, right? You order fish in the mail. That's great. No, it's all relatable. It's on the topic of ethics, so. I'm sorry, Janelle. These live streams are usually not dramatic, but as you can see, we have a decent amount of people chiming in because people care about this topic. So, what up, Demarian? I remember AZ made Leos. Pretty sure you can understand research papers. Didn't take science classes in college for nothing. Well, that's great, Mar. If you understand research papers, then maybe you can find the research papers. How about that? You really want to know? Dig it up. Do some research. You know, lemon frost genetics, Polish study, UCLA study. Go and find those papers. You know what you're going to find? Both of those studies, at least the UCLA study, I have to remind myself about the Polish study, they are unpublished. They're not even backed up or represented by top scientists on the matter. So I'm going to skip over a lot of these questions. See, Sage, you don't care. That's why we're here, blah, blah, blah. If you already got your mind made up, then what's the point, you know? They're not painful. That's what they concluded, Noah. Of course, you could look at pictures of really bad examples, right? But can't I show you a picture of a dead on arrival animal and say, Noah, how could you take the chance of shipping animals when thousands of animals a year die just like this animal? You know? But I can't do that because every scenario is different. You can see these geckos are obviously not going through any pain, any defects, or anything like that. Why do other geckos not have tumors? I have had hundreds, never seen tumors, not even in my 23 years old. Yeah, of course, there's something spontaneous that happened in that mutation. Let's talk about the uniqueness of this animal real quick. This animal is a spontaneous combustion of genetics that took place. The The lemon frost gene came from 2 wild caught animals that did not have any of the lemon frost genetics in it. It was a spontaneous genetic mutation that took place. One of the very few that we've seen recently, and one of the very few that we've seen ever, to create such a change to where it would cause an animal to produce cells or vast amounts more of cells that it never had before. This one is good quality. Who is we? Well, we made it through a live stream of the gecko not pooping on me. That's great. Dude, there's a tumor on this side. Laugh out loud. Nope. So what happens with some of the lemon frost geckos, they can develop spots of brighter pigment, but it does not mean that that is a tumor, nor does it mean that that is going to develop into a tumor. So suspicious spots is something that we are working on in the project. When suspicious spots pop up, they will be monitored, of course, and recorded so that we can provide accurate documentation for the hobby. Sage, you're actually being manageable to me. I've seen too much harm. Yes, Sage, it is very harmful. That's why we care about the lemon frost genetic not continuing to do harm. Guys, I've had to put down an Enigma gecko. I've had another Enigma gecko that withered away and died on me. I have some runted geckos here from inbreeding. You know, Black Knight, Tangerine. There's stuff that happens in this hobby that hurts our hearts, right? But not all the time is the answer just ignore it and it will go away. Lemon frost is not going anywhere. People are going to breed lemon frost no matter what. If there is a way to breed lemon frost in a way that is better, then we hope to find it. If that way does not exist, we hope to make it abundantly clear through videos like this and data and records so that we can show people that, hey, if they make the decision to go down this road, there is a 100% likelihood that here's how it is going to end up. But right now, there are so many different projects working around outcrossing and pure species that have given us a little bit of hope to say, you know what? The lemon frost is not quite dead exactly yet. How long did the hobby experiment with Enigma before they put a nail in the coffin? 15 years? You tell me. Okay, so we're talking about making the geckos better here. If we can't make them better, we will make that apparently 100% upfront, honest, with data, research to show you through video recordings that this is not good. Yeah, Supreme, you missed a lot, brother. Andrew, good to see you guys. Yeah, Jordan, I can't find the research paper on my phone. If you really care, if you truly cared, then you would message me privately and I will send you the links. So again, suspicious spotting or bright spotting is not necessarily the starts of a tumor. It might be, it might not be. It is something that we are trying to work on. Our studies will either show one way or the other whether this project needs to 100% be put to death or be put to rest because it cannot be outcrossed or because, as far as we can tell, there are no solutions. But again, my question to you, how many people work with compromising genes or whatever the case may be, and they're okay with the risk, right? Just because you're not okay with the risk doesn't mean that other people have to follow suit after you. And that's the world of science. People are always trying to find solutions. If everybody stopped when they told the first man that he was crazy for going to the moon, never would have got there. The world is flat, never would have found out it's round. the sky is blue, never would have found out about the light spectrum and how light refracts in our atmosphere to cause the sky to be a certain color. So, all right, let's show some trimpers. Here's one of our most beautiful red striped tangerine trimpers. Again, the red stripe genetic is a genetic that more documentation needs to be recorded on it. So we will be definitely recording a lot of documentation on the red stripe genetic, because the red stripe genetic, this popped up for me from 2 geckos that did not have any red stripe. And I have a couple other geckos that also popped up the red stripe spontaneously. It seems to come from heavy contrasted tangerine lines and possibly hypo lines. So we will see, but I haven't really seen any research to show what the exact definition of the red stripe is right now, whether it's recessive, dominant, some kind of weird thing. Oh, so Mar, you do have the research papers. Oh, that's good to know. I have never ordered from Underground Reptiles, but I love those guys over there. I support what they're doing. So we don't know, Andrew, in case you missed it, the studies don't know what exactly is causing the tumor issues. There was a Polish study that was inconclusive. You read the very bottom of their paper, they give you a hypothesis. After years of research, they give a hypothesis. Same with the UCLA study. Inconclusive at the end of the paper. Does not alter the cell production or protein development in the area where the lemon frost mutation is located. So, yeah, exactly, Junior. I labeled this video this way. Now, none of them are doing it right now. They're just, they're just saying that, I'm a bad person, whatever. But you should actually see some of the messages that I've gotten from these same people that are in the chat right now. Not death threats or anything like that. I'm not going to put that on you guys. But you have definitely made character threats, character assassination attempts, threats towards who I am as a person without even talking to me, without even getting to know me. That is why the title of this is No Bullying. No, that's not okay. Name calling is not okay. I have never once called you a name during this presentation, just simply pointed out some of the hypocrisies in your perspective, number one, but also pointed out that your minds are already made up, number two. And I don't know, I probably pointed something else out, but I'm trying to go through these questions here. So, and again, Junior, yeah, of course, but they love the drama. They love the controversy. They want to be here and give their 2 cents. I actually give Sage props. Sage, you will hear me right now giving you props because you are the most respectable on this stream right now, and I appreciate that. And you might be cursing me out after this stream, and that's okay. I don't hate you. But on this stream, you are actually very reasonable. You appear to be open-minded. You listened to me. You heard my perspective. And trust me, I hear you. All of you guys who hate the Lemon Frost gene, I understand. I am not in the Lemon Frost project to create worse animals. If better animals cannot be created, 100% the project will be put to rest. And we will have videos, data, and documentation showing what we did over the years and why we believe that this project should or should not be pursued. But up till now, as you can see, people like Mar and the other people that are asking for the papers are very elusive, number one. It takes a lot of digging to get them. They're not published, number two, so they're not really signed off by any authority in the scientific community. Number three, they're inconclusive. Number four, they use scientific jargon and language that the average person is not going to understand, including myself. That's why I had to read it with the doctor. So, Jacob, this is probably one of our most orange geckos. And sometimes the lighting is kind of difficult, but in person, she's just a rich, rich orange. And you can see that breakdown of red on her back, which is pretty cool. Yes, guys, you could easily say that stop breeding it is the answer, but nobody is going to stop breeding it. Asia did not stop breeding it. Europe did not stop breeding it. America is not stopping breeding it. So we are not breeding defective animals over here. That's not our goal. Our goal is to actually come up with, if possible, a solution for people to go down so that they can avoid bad defects or defects as a whole. Let me bring up spider in ball pythons. Let me bring up lily white in crested geckos. Now, depending on what your stance is, some people practice responsible breeding with those morphs. You can't breed a spider to a spider. 25% of the babies will die. You can't breed a lily white to a lily white. 25% of the babies will die. You can't breed a spider to a champagne. 25% of the babies will die. So in this, but people still breed champagne. People still breed spider. People still breed lily white. You just have to be responsible. And all of the people that jumped on me without even realizing what I was doing, or like the responsibleness that I was trying to bring to the topic in the community, as well as bringing light to people, because people need answers and no one's giving them answers. People are just saying, yeah, it's determined, the project's done, blah, 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 it's over with. But it's not. It's really, really not. The research is only a few years old. And if you know anything about research, it must go on. The show must go on before the research can actually be conclusive. And these studies are not showing any conclusive. So lemon frost should be going somewhere. It shouldn't be bred. There are so many other gorgeous morphs to work with. Why risk the lives of so many? Yes, Sage. Here's why people breed the lemon frost, because it's so beautiful. People are not going to stop breeding it because it's so beautiful. So therefore, if possible, I'm not saying there is, I'm saying there's hope right now. There's hope, but it's not 100% possibility. If we find out there's no possibility whatsoever, we will make abundantly clear through videos and research and documentation. We will flood the internet and YouTube and marketing and social media with videos and data over the years that show, hey, even though the geckos were outcrossed, this percentage of geckos developed tumors. This percentage of geckos did not develop tumors. Here is our opinion based on this research, right? The scientists in a lab could not come up with the conclusion. Therefore, the observationalist, which is the hobbyist, must be the scientist in this case. How many snakes died 40 years ago when they were first imported while people were learning how to keep them? How many geckos died? How many how many new animals are imported that still die because we don't understand the care of them? How many geckos die in incubation containers every single year, in shipping, in wholesaling? Those ethics could be attacked in the same way that you're attacking me for the lemon frost ethics. But why are you not attacking those ethics? You're blind. You're naive to your own, I was going to say nativity, but that's not correct. Naiveness. Let's go with that. Hey, size geckos, that lump on the side is probably a fat lump. Please learn your facts before spitting them out. Frank is right. I've done the research. Yeah, we don't know what and how these outcrosses are going to pan out. All I can tell you is there are some spots that are brighter, some smaller than others that we are observing, some in earlier generations compared to later generations of the project. But no official tumors or bulging has developed yet. It doesn't mean it won't. We are going to put that data and that explanation out there for people. But the nail, I don't believe, is in the coffin yet. And that's the key. 15 years, people experimented with the Enigma gene before putting the nail in the coffin. And some people still breed the Enigma gene. So, if possible to save or redeem this gene, it's worth it. Yeah, you dropped the Enigma after 2 years. Wally, I had to put down an Enigma. I watched an Enigma die in my very hands, my arms, basically. My heart hurt. I don't want that. That's why I don't work with Enigma right now. But I'm not going to judge people that do, because everyone has the right to take the risks that they want. Shipping is a risk, and plenty of animals die every year. Incubating is a risk, and plenty of animals die. Importation is a risk. Plenty of animals are plucked from the wild and put into farms and given to us for entertainment. Those things could equally be ethically attacked. Plenty of geckos are inbred, stunted, not able to breed, have lower quality life because they are inbred. And yet I don't hear anybody talking about those. So the moon doesn't have tumors. Yeah, I mean, but it's dangerous, right? How many people died trying to get to the moon? Controversial. It's sad to see these animals get the tumors and suffer and die. So again, the Polish study showed that the tumors are not painful. Does that mean that every tumor is not painful? I've seen some really bad pictures. So it's possible that those tumors are painful. You know that not one leopard gecko has ever died from lemon frost that the paper showed? All the geckos died from euthanasia. We killed these geckos to study them. We killed them to study them. I'm not even killing the geckos to study them. All of those guys that donated hundreds of animals to slaughter for the genetic study of the animals, could you not ethically judge them? Could you not? I mean, really? Are you that naive in your judgment and perspective? Sage, I appreciate you, girl. Sage, you're my new you're my favorite enemy, Sage. Because you're actually the most reasonable. You're the most conversational. Fame, no. Oklana, we love these animals. Look at this. There's 22 people here right now, all because we love this hobby. I am one of you. Stop treating me like an outcast. I love this hobby. I love these animals. Just because I'm okay with certain risks and you're okay with certain risks doesn't give you the right to judge my risks, and it doesn't give me the right to judge the risks that you're okay with. This is why we are having this conversation today. We love this hobby. Red Stripe is line bred. Not necessarily, Okana. This guy's parents did not have Red Stripe genes. So, Junior, you're getting crazy with people. I can see when messages get retracted. This is part of an Inferno Tangelo cross. I love Inferno. Inferno is one type of tangerine. Blood is another type of tangerine. Mandarin is another type of tangerine. Tangelo is another type of tangerine. There's at least 4 very popular strains of tangerine that exist. Right now, there's only one line of Black Knight genes that exist. There's a carbon line of dark animals, and there's a Black Knight line of dark animals. But until more lines are developed, there won't be any newer lines. What we're doing this year, again, to help the Black Knight project, we're breeding it into stronger bloodlines. Fasciolatus, Turkmenicus, Afghanicus. We're breeding it into bloodlines so that we can continue this project for the next 50 years. Because you can only inbreed for about 10 to 12 years before problems occur. Jay, I've been breeding for 16 years. I know what a fat pad looks like. Laugh out loud. Jay, I appreciate your support, brother. Sage, to give you credit where credit is due, that little spot on the gecko side, that was not there before. It's going to be something that I observe. It's possible that that's the beginning of a tumor. And if that is so, we will show that tumors, we will show the quality or the strength of tumors that do or do not develop in generation 3. Remember, we're 4 years into this project. This is the 4th year. In year 1, suspicious spotting happened, but no tumors. Still a little bit of short facing and inbred look. Short body, stout body. Year 2, less suspicious spotting, less stout body. Year 3, perfect body, perfect eyes, perfect snout, perfect shape, but still a couple of suspicious spottings. So we need to be able to see how these suspicious spottings develop, if they develop, and as they do, or if they do, we will definitely record that for everybody. What I'm not okay with is people trying to shut down knowledge and shut down education. You know, so there's one stance that says, hey, don't tell anybody to breed lemon frost. Don't tell anybody anything about the lemon frost. Tell them that the gene is a complete loss, even though the research is only literally 2 months old. The research was just released 3 months ago. The paper was inconclusive. It was not even publicized or signed off on by professional authors or scientists. And we're going to claim that to be the Bible of the answers? No, that is not how observation and science works. And Andrew, I completely support your perspective on that. I appreciate people like you and Wally because we can disagree on things, but I know your heart. I feel like you know my heart. My heart is not in it to produce bad animals. I mean, what gain would there be, right? I would only ruin my... Look at all the negativity, all the customers I've lost because of people that don't agree with the Lemon Frost project. I would not be in the project if I did not see hope, number one, and if I did not care about the advancement of the hobby as a whole and the genes and breeding as a whole. So, Frank, I'd be more than happy to talk to you over Facebook and Instagram. You don't hate me, Sage. Sage, I can't remember if you were the one that was giving me the most hate. Sage, you're not Q's Geckos, are you? Someone Q's Geckos. They were giving me a ton of hate, but you should put the papers out so everyone can read. Yeah, Andrew, we will. The papers are out there. Again, the top breeders in this hobby, they've been covering it up. They've been trying to ignore that these papers, you know, they've been trying to ignore it and not give these people the papers. You know, I agree that I should have the papers, and anybody who wants the links, trust me, I have the links for you. If you're serious about it, I will send you the links. But in the last 5 years, why hasn't the community been provided those links already when they existed? The Polish link and, you know, other third-party links. Why is because the biggest breeders, I shouldn't classify everyone that way, but people who wanted to cover it up just decided that it wasn't worth talking about or actually doing a video on and talking about scientifically. Here's what we're going to do. I challenge anybody, and I openly say that I will print the research papers. And anybody watching right now who has their own channel, because I'm sure there's a lot of people tuning in here who have their own channel and their own perspective, let's do a collaboration on the discussion points of the papers. You bring the papers, I'll bring the papers, you highlight your points, I'll highlight my points, and we will talk about those points live. Okay, Andrew, yeah, please. It's tough for me to keep track of this stuff. Message me right now if you really care about getting the research papers, and I will message it to you. So, and yes, Wally, I know where you stand on lily whites. The place that I stand on not compromising. What's the word? Controversial. The place that I stand on controversial genetics is responsibility. Each breeder should, in my opinion, have a level of responsibility when they're breeding the animal. And even then, accidents will happen or all risks can't be eliminated, right? But again, I'm okay with that risk. In the same way that when a breeder ships out a gecko, he's okay with the risk that that gecko might turn out dead. When a breeder sells to an individual or wholesales to people, that breeder is okay that that gecko might end up dead because of improper husbandry. Or when a breeder breeds two tangerines together that are from two separate bloodlines, that breeder takes a risk that the babies that develop will not be stunted. I've had 2 geckos stunted from 2 completely different tangerine bloodlines in my collection because those risks exist. But for the hobby, for certain people to pick on me and say that my risks are worse than their risks, that's what I'm calling out tonight. the bullying that goes along with that, the name calling that goes along with that, the death threats towards my personality and towards my who I am as a person. That's all what this statement goes against. I'm okay with the difference of opinion. I'm not okay with bullying and threats and those kinds of things. So, Noah, I love Cresties too. I'm not as well versed on Cresties as maybe Supreme Gecko is, but again, I've been in this hobby for a while. I'm pretty familiar with all the care and whatnot of most species. No Super Ball python has ever lived. No, exactly, Andrew. But people still breed spider, right? They just don't breed it spider to spider because spider to spider produces 25% dead babies. Champagne to champagne, spider to champagne, lily white to lily white produces 25% dead babies. So because of that, people are responsible and they won't breed lily white to lily white, or they won't breed spider to spider, champagne to spider, etc., etc. Brain doctors. Actually, I don't know his official title. I'll have to find out, but he's an overall managing, not physician, but doctor at a hospital. So he manages other doctors. We've looked at the research intricately with a surgical knife of the words that are used in the study. Iridophore-like does not mean iridophores. Inconclusive means that we don't know the answer to what's causing the problem. And that was mentioned in the Polish study as well as the UCLA study. That's okay, Andrew. You know, I'm here to talk about it. There's some people that want to hear about it, some people that want to just ramble on, whatever, you know. And I understand that. Yeah, I'm not trying to change anyone's minds. I'm just trying to explain my point of view. I actually have heavy respect for Sage, and I don't know if that's Q's Geckos, but I got heavy respect for you, girl, because I think if you're Q's Geckos, you know that we've been through some back and forth. I mean, I know I've received a lot of heavy hate mail, and I think it was from you, but I appreciate you coming on here, being willing to talk. What lump on what gecko? Yeah, let's show it. So guys, we are not about hiding anything here. This is not the goal of what we do at Geeky Gecko Creations. If there's any data to be produced, we will show you the data. This is a Generation 3 Frosty Turk Gecko. It's 87.5% Turkmenicus, 12.5% Macularis. That comes from the bloodline that was affected by the lemon frost genes. And you can see right there on its side, that's actually the first time I've seen that, there is a suspicious lumping / spotting. It's not even a lump yet. The protrusions that are coming out right now is just skin bubbling up. But, I mean skin wrinkling up. But I will tell you that even some of these Generation 3 geckos develop suspicious spotting like that. But it does not mean that it's going to turn into a tumor. And if it does turn into a tumor, we will definitely let you know. We are going to do plenty of documentation of what goes on so that at minimum, we can show people, hey, even if you outcross, it's not worth it. It's still going to develop tumors. Or, hey, if you outcross, the chances of tumors go down 90% and they will not have bad tumors. And the tumors are sustainable and livable because the Polish study showed that the tumors on a small scale are not even painful. That's what the Polish study showed, guys. Those are scientists. So if you don't believe me, believe them. Jay, thank you again for that support, brother. You know, I'm here to support this hobby. This is why we do what we do. Not the lemon frost gecko, but for the geckos, for the hobby. We want to carry this hobby into 50 years from now, think about that, guys. Significant outcrossing needs to take place so that we can bring this hobby 50 years into the future. We can't continue to breed macularis to macularis bloodlines and expect that runts won't occur, genetic defects won't occur. We need to come up with solutions. And the lemon frost is part of us coming up with that solution, as well as many other geckos. So Andrew, the geckos in Poland were showed to not suffer with the tumors, not painful. Yeah, and that's bad, Oklana. If those kinds of things happen, that data will be made known. But again, how many enigmas were put to death before? And again, there's still not a lot of data that's put out on the internet to really persuade people away from the enigma gene. You know, so all of the people that are against breeding the enigma gene, same with the lemon frost, you should get videos together, right? Documenting your perspective so that we as a community can make the decisions based on data and research and observation instead of based on one person's opinion and just going with what they say. She had a gut tumor. She had no external tumors. So that's horrible, Oklana. If those kinds of things happen, we will definitely make that known. You know, obviously, that's one gecko, right, Oklana? That's one gecko. I can easily show you a runted gecko that can't survive on its own, or enigma gecko that can't survive on its own. You know, you could pick out these outlier incidents. And I'm not saying that tumors are an outlier, because there's a significant amount of geckos that probably have them. But hey, we should start documenting and putting this information out there instead of just putting it into the scientists' hands and saying, okay, well, they weren't able to come up with the answer, so I guess we're done here. I guess there is no answer. Ethical euthanasia. Not sure where that came from. And see, there's a generalization. Noah Bounds. If you care about this animal, you would not be breeding this morph. Like, who are you to tell me if I care about the animal or not? Noah, if you care about your animals, you would not import them from farms in the Middle East, in Africa. You would not support the importation of reptiles. You would not support the hobby of reptiles. You would not support the shipping of reptiles, nor the inbreeding of reptiles, nor the incubation of reptiles, nor the husbandry of reptiles, nor the selling of reptiles, because all of those topics produce deaths. But I'm not going to sit here and characterize you and say, because you're okay with dead shipments, and because you're okay with dead imports, and because you're okay with dead inbreeding, and because you're okay with dead incubation situations, and because you're okay with dead selling situations where geckos get sold to people who don't know how to take care of them and they die, I'm not going to say that you're guilty of supporting the death of those animals, because that would be prejudice. That would be just not right of me to do. I'm judging your heart based on the actions of others and based on instances that occur instead of your intent, your motives, and who you are as a person. So yeah, I answered Noah. There he goes. He's not a red stripe. He is a red stripe. All I see is white spine. You can't see. Okay, let me show you. Let's show you the red spine. There, clearly distinguishable. You know why? I'll take that as a compliment. Who is that? Oklana. The fact that you can't see the red of this gecko shows how orange the gecko is. But actually, if you look, you can't see it. Right there. White spine and red being portrayed on both sides. And I caught the gecko. See? I should crucify you. You almost made me drop the gecko. You're an unethical person. Do you see how, like just silly that sounds? So anyway, this is a red striped gecko. You can clearly see the red stripes on the sides. If neither the parents are red stripes and the baby can't be a red stripe, well, explain that then. Explain that. Definitely keep us updated on what the spot turns into for Gen 3. So as of right now, I do not have Gen 1 or Gen 2 in my hands. I talk with the breeder. The breeder says suspicious spotting only, no bumps, no any other problems so far, 4 years in. So, I mean, we're not out of the water, right? But I'm just saying, guys, let's not be so quick to judge each other. The Enigma gene was around for 15 years before judgment started. It's still around. Again, do I have to go through that list? Shipping, inbreeding, poaching, imports. There's so many things we could judge each other for without even knowing like who the person is. I respect you, Sage. I appreciate you for taking the time to get to know me today. There's a few people in this chat that I feel like, okay, I'll give you the credit for being here and trying to get to know me, but I don't want to say you're closed-minded because I don't want to put the burden of open-mindedness on you. You have the feelings you have. Those feelings are valid. I validate your feelings. I understand your pain. I get it. I support it. But what I don't support is just being quick to judge, name call, and bash. You know what I mean? And hey, I've done it myself. So I don't even hold you like guilty or accountable for that. Wash my hands. Like all is forgiven. Like no bad blood. But, you know, I did have to mention it. In this project, how many geckos produces each year? So far it's been only a couple dozen geckos over the last few years. I don't have Gen 1 and 2. I have 3 of Gen 3. And we have probably, if we're lucky, maybe 20 babies or so on the way that are continuing on the Turkmenicus bloodline, the Fasciolatus bloodline, the Afghanicus bloodline, to see what happens with those bloodlines. Jordan. Yeah, thank you. We are trying to stop the badness, guys. The madness. Stop the badness. That is the goal, you know? So if it's possible to show whatever the results are, we're going to show it, right? Whether the results are positive or the results are negative, that way the community can actually have videos and recording and data instead of just blindly trusting in other people's opinions that actually are not backed up on research papers that are completely confident, you know what I mean? Or confident at all. Sage, you are Q's geckos. I respect you even more for admitting that. I can't tell you how bad I appreciate you, Sage. I can't say where, you know, I can't speak for your perspective tonight, but it sounds like, and you just said earlier, you don't hate me, but it sounds like you don't hate me. And it sounds like you have an open mind to who I am as a person. I'm not going to say that you have an open mind to whether the lemon frost should be bred or not. I understand your perspective, and you have the right to say that perspective. And I completely agree with you that there's a lot of reasons why lemon frost should not be bred, or it should not be bred in irresponsible ways. But I thank you for coming on here tonight, presenting yourself, making yourself known, allowing me to call you out, you know, in the same way that you've called me out, and just allowing us to have a conversation. I can definitely give you a lot of respect for that, for sure. Where is that purple gecko? Guys, one of my favorite blizzards purchased here. Look at those paradox spots. She's going to bite me. She is so crazy. She opens her mouth like a little velociraptor and then just gnaws down on you. It's crazy. But look how beautiful this girl is. What a beautiful midnight blizzard. Oh, man, beautiful. I don't want to say it gets any better than that because there's probably, you know, other people that can say that they got some good ones. But look at her. She's going to bite me. She's so crazy. She just rears her mouth, and before you know it, she's ready to bite you. Let's see if we can like get that on film and show that. Sorry, there's a little lever here that's kind of getting in my way. I need to turn this around. Nah, I can't turn it around, but look, you can see that this gecko is eclipse. Those are not blizzard eyes. Blizzard eyes are all black, no shading. This eye, you could see, actually has some shading in it. Come on, perspective. Boom. You can see some shading in that eye. It's not fully shaded in. This is an eclipse gecko, guys. We're going to have some cool stuff here. He's keeping the animals for passion, not money. Yes, exactly. But dude, I've been trying to find out who the mentors are. No, it doesn't matter who the mentors are. I will ask if my mentor is okay with being on the show, and we will actually do a sit down breakdown interpretation of the data. But again, I challenge and I want to have an open discussion with any podcast or any live stream or anybody that wants to print out the research paper. I will print out the research paper and we will talk about the facts in a human manner. We could call each other names. We could get down each other's throats, whatever the case is, but at least we will be able to hash it out and talk about it. Frank, I know and respect you as a person. No hate for me. I just want to know more about this. I lived the Enigma ordeal. Yes, exactly. And my heart hurts for, and maybe someone knows more about this. I am not going down this road, don't get me wrong, but was Enigma attempted to be outcrossed into Fasciolatus afghanicus, Turkmenicus, those bloodlines? Do you see? I've done thousands of hours of research on the internet. Why is this information not out there? Why are there not more videos about data and observational research that has been done by hobbyists like you and I to record video and written information on the results of people's breeding, you know? And I think more of that needs to be recorded. If that's not recorded, each generation is going to get worse and worse and still be making the same mistakes. So, oh, I like that little bubble that you got there. I don't hate anyone, but please send me those links. Yeah, DEA, please remind me through Messenger. Just be like, hey, send me those links, please. I will absolutely send you the Polish link, the UCLA link, and I believe there might be a third reference. I got to double check. Oklana, we talked about everything. You know, like it doesn't matter who my doctor is. It doesn't matter who my business partner is. All that, yeah. All that matters is that we discuss the paper together. How about that? Oklana, get some of your bigger breeder people to call me out and to have me on a live show or a podcast, and we will talk about these research papers. We will actually go over it in person. I will go over it on my channel in a video. And if my medical, obviously I don't want to put my medical physician, my medical doctor on fire. You know what I mean? Because look at all the hate and the backlash that comes to me. I don't want that to come to him because he's responsible for not only Geckos' lives, but people's lives. And he's saving lives every single day. He is such a smart person. He knows the answers and he finds the answers and he researches. And that dude, I trust that dude. You know, you have to trust your doctors. He got to where he is, not by chance, but by hard work and by correctness and by research. So if he's okay with me revealing his position, we'll have him on the show. We'll have him break down the topics for us. And I'll be here to say it in layman's terms because he gets kind of wordy sometimes and nerdy and medical. So we're going to have to kind of break down those terminologies. Sometimes I got to be like, hey, did you mean this? Like, okay, so anyway. Yeah, we're not going to do a live stream. We'll probably do, well, actually, maybe we will do a live stream. Stop using shipping of live animals and line breeding as an example. It is an example, Lori. And if you don't see it, I don't know how you don't see it. Dozens of animals die every day through the shipping process, every year through the shipping process. Dozens of animals die every year through incubation spikes, incubation fails, bad husbandry, wholesaling, inbreeding, producing defects and stunting of the animals. All of those are worth mentioning. Lori, don't act like they're not. Oklana has asked a lot, who is your mentor? I think I just answered that question. I've never lost an animal when shipping. Neither have I, but it happens. But plus, Noah, just because things are good now, do you think things were good 20 years ago? How many geckos and reptiles died, gave their lives so that Reptiles Express, Reptiles to You, ship your reptiles, they would have the experimental and observational data to know what works and what doesn't work. And guess what? When that snowstorm hit Memphis, Tennessee a couple weeks ago, dozens of animals still died because a snowstorm hit, packages got held up, FedEx couldn't get the packages out, those geckos, those reptiles, those snakes died. Dozens of them. So, Noah, just because you never received a bad gecko in 12 years, what about 30 years ago? What about 20 years ago? What about importation in the 1980s? How many reptiles gave their lives for us to know what we know today? And I know it might sound cruel, but in a similar way, that is what we were doing with the Lemon Frost Project. We are not trying to kill geckos. We are not trying to produce defected geckos. We are trying to produce answers through observation, experimentation, and data. Something that the hobby needs more of. And we plan to show the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes, shipping causes stress, you know what I mean? How many geckos were produced each year in your project? You have documentation on the results. Yes, Supreme. So far in my first 2 years of producing leopard geckos, my first 2 years, I probably had about 50 geckos. This year, we're probably going on about 150 to 200. Next year, we're projecting maybe 1,000, depending on how many geckos we hold back and how well we are able to accommodate and expand. So, yes, Lori, there are ball python farms, monitor farms. There would be leopard gecko farms, but importation is shut down. So guess what? We're left inbreeding the Macularis line for the next 50 years. And that's another reason why I promote cross-species and subspecies and outcross breeding. Not only does it appear to strengthen the bloodlines, but it also will allow this hobby to continue in the future for many, many years. It's not a breeder, Oklana. It's an actual practicing physician, like someone that's responsible for people's lives every single day. Actual lives. And you know how he got there? Because he saves lives. That's how he got there. So hats off to you, my friend. You deserve every bit of credit for saving the people that you have saved. And we are going to continue to do our research and our data in the hobby. I'm not closed-minded. If you think I am, you got me dead wrong. I wanted Lemon Frost to work, but it won't. Where is your data to suggest that it won't work? Is it other people's scientific research? You mean the research of dead animals? Animals that they killed to experiment on? Instead of animals that they experimented with in live scenarios, outcrossing scenarios? Did they not try to give injections or anything else like that could possibly help? Like, how many different tests did they avoid? They actually didn't try to make the geckos better. All they simply tried to prove was where these defects are coming from, and they couldn't even do that. Lori, remember, every genetic mutation spontaneously popped up or was inherited at some point. You can see this in ball pythons more than leopard geckos. Spontaneous mutations happen all the time. Why can't it happen in leopard geckos? The answer is it can happen in leopard geckos. No, until we see documentation, until we see facts proven, disproven, there is no need to know names, right? Yeah, like what does the names matter? If he's okay with it, we'll call him out. I'm okay with the paper. Now that I know how to understand the paper, I'm okay showing you the paper. I'm okay talking about the paper with other people. You know what I mean? And discussing the understanding of the paper because I've had a long discussion with them. Yeah, Thurman. I usually don't do rants or debate stuff, but you know, this was a great opportunity to call out some negative behavior that was going on, number one, and also unite the community. Crescent, you got to check out the video, sister, because there's been a whole lot of stuff that's gone on. My goal is not to divide the community. I was just talking to another large breeder today. I don't think there's enough of uniting of the community, because whenever two people disagree, they just go separate ways. Look at this girl. Look at this girl. She's trying to bite me. She is crazy. Instead of going separate ways, why don't we just agree to disagree, understand each other's passions and hearts, move on, and uplift the hobby as a whole? Why do we have to get niche-y and cliquey and shove people away and dilute the hobby to something that discourages people and doesn't allow people to get in and feel comfortable asking questions? Do you know how many people are uncomfortable asking lemon frost questions, enigma questions? I had a friend of mine today that was accused of being a bad person because they are breeding their Enigma leopard gecko. Now, regardless of your stance on Enigma, how can you say that this person is a bad person because they're choosing a risk that they're comfortable with, when you are not condemned, or I could condemn you for the risks that you're okay with, such as inbreeding, shipping, importation, wholesaling, even private sales of animals that die every single year? Should I show you some pictures of animals that died at the hands of irresponsible keepers? Impaction issues, shipping issues, heating issues, importation issues. If I showed you pictures of that, I could say that you are just as responsible for being unethical as I am for working the Lemon Frost Project, as you are for supporting this hobby that willingly puts animals in cages, breeds them, incubates their eggs die in the incubator, infertile rates, supports the poaching of animals in the wild so that we could be entertained, so that we could have a pet. Do you not? The hypocrisy in your perspective. But again, I won't judge you or condemn you for that, because I'd have to condemn myself for being okay with that. But I am okay with animals being caught from the wild and brought into captivity. I am okay with animals being kept in small bins all of their life, as long as they're cared for. I am okay with controversial genetics, as long as those genetics are done in a responsible way and somebody does not have malicious intents. I am okay with shipping reptiles, even though thousands of animals have died during the shipping process and are still dying during the shipping process and are still dying during the inbreeding process, the wholesale process, the private sale process. I'm okay with all of that. And guess what? So are you, because you are in this hobby and you support it as well. You just don't want to condemn yourself, and you'd rather point the finger at me because it's easier. Yeah, that would be great. Let's have a discussion with John. Don, I don't know who Don is, but I know John is great. He's obviously top guy in the hobby. You know, I think it was his collection that got donated originally, either Steve Sykes or John Scarborough. A lot of those guys donated their animals to death. Guys, do you guys realize that all the animals that were experimented in the labs were put to death? Maybe I'm hastily speaking here, but the research papers showed that animals were euthanized, put to death, just to understand what's going on. And they didn't even come up with the conclusive answer. So you literally put these animals to death and didn't even get the answer. Is that not unethical? Come on, guys. Let's not be naive now. No hate. Sorry if I was disrespectful in the past. I appreciate that, Lori. I'm sorry that my ethics collide with yours. I can't say that my perspective is different, because it's not. But I am sorry if I don't ever remember talking bad about you or trying to shed negative light, but by me saying that you've been negative to me is sort of putting you out there in a negative way. So I'm sorry about that. That could even be kind of controversial, because that's not the goal. The goal of this conversation is to bring the hobby together. And so I really appreciate Sage. I really appreciate Lori. You guys are actually showing a lot of respect for me at a time right now when you don't have to, because your emotions are hurt, your feelings are hurt. And I understand that when emotions are hurt, And I understand why your emotions are hurt. I agree with you that you have the right for your emotions to be hurt. And so I appreciate you apologizing to me when you didn't have to. And I really, really respect that. And hopefully, this is the start of something that we can, develop on. This is aggravating for breeders who have seen so many people try to outcross lemon frost and fail. So Lori, my question to that is, which breeders tried to outcross it? All of the geckos that were donated to the labs, none of them I saw were outcrossed geckos. I've never seen any videos or documentation or data showing the outcrossings that did take place. If I did see that it didn't work, then I would have never started the project. But that data I've never seen exist. And that's part of the reasoning why we need to unite as a community. Because so many people would rather not talk about these controversial topics and just have these things go on behind closed doors and breeding behind closed doors, and the black market and the Asian market, the European market, the American market, just breeding this gene without knowing what to breed it to, or what's better to breed it to or not breed it to. Yes, I understand it would be best if this genetic could just not be bred as a whole, but that's not going to happen. The genetic is already being bred. It's the same with tegus in Florida, Burmese pythons in Florida. Those animals are there to stay. They're not going anywhere. And I don't agree that genocide of the animals or mass killing of the animals is the answer. Yeah, anybody can go out with a machete and kill the animal. Anybody can go out with a bow and shoot the animal, a gun and shoot the animal. That's not the answer. In the same way that covering up difficult topics just to not talk about them, or being unwilling to experiment and observe for many years and being open to that is not the answer. Shipping animals from point A to B is nothing more than a very small chance of death. But there is a chance of death, Noah. Dozens of animals gave their lives a couple weeks ago when Memphis closed down. Dozens of more are giving their lives to get the animals here imported into the United States. How do you think we got animals imported into the United States? And how many animals do you think died before getting here alive? Don't make me bring up the incubation thing. How many animals die in the incubators every year? Don't develop fertile because of temperature fluctuations or temperature malfunctions. Sassobek is a great dude. He put this information out there, so therefore he will be held accountable to it. 800 eggs in his incubator died, or close to it. He just released it on a podcast. 800 animals died, guys, because his incubator failed twice. Not only once did he have this issue with his landlord, but twice. I'm not judging him for being unethical. I'm not judging him for not taking better precautions to prevent that from happening. Stuff happens, guys. This is the hobby that we live in. Matt is a great guy. I know he has a love and a passion for the animals. I'm not blaming him for 800 animals dying in his incubator. But how can you call me a bad guy and not point the finger at cases like that? Just blink for me if there isn't actually a mentor. He's not a mentor. He's a partner, you know. Yes, Okana, I understand what line bred is. The matching up of genes that are similar to produce a desired effect. Tangerine to tangerine. Black knight to black knight. Bold stripe to bold stripe. But remember, all genetics spontaneously were created at some point. What came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, the bold stripe or the spontaneous combination of genetics that started producing striped animals? The spontaneous mutation that started orange pigment. The spontaneous mutation that started dark geckos. What came first, Oklana? Yes, I understand what line breeding is 100%. But you got to know, spontaneity is the reason genetics is here. Before genetics could be inherited, they spontaneously started occurring in animals. And then we line bred them for deeper expressions of those characteristics. All right, Sage, I appreciate you being here. I don't know if you're still here, but and yeah, anyone who wants those pages will definitely get those out there. I feel bad you are being bullied and made fun of, even in this chat for this topic. Looking forward. Yeah, you know, I didn't even see much bullying. Maybe you guys got the chance to see it, but some of the stuff I was receiving on my Facebook and Instagram was pretty bad. And I'll just say some of the people showed up tonight in the chat, and let's not hate on them. Let's actually be thankful that they came here to have an open discussion so that we can unite together as a hobby. I'm thankful for that more than ever, guys. It could have easily been a condemnation by them towards me, but they did not do that. I give them a lot of credit for that, and I don't want to say anything negative towards them. So the issues I have with the hobby right now being harassed. Yeah, even Crescent was harassed when this girl, you know, like did nothing to be harassed. It's just that people have such locked mentalities that when you say something that's controversial to their mentality, instead of taking the time to just be understanding that people are people and we all have ethical standpoints that we're okay with or not okay with, and it's okay to be different, they just jump down your throat and say you're the worst person in the world. Being harassed, bullied, and thrown around. The higher breeders in the hobby because I wouldn't sign a stupid pledge on Instagram. Yeah, that's silly, guys. At what old can a lemon frost show signs of tumor? Well, we got some lemon frost that are 4 years old and no tumors yet. They could develop anywhere from 6 months old to 6 years old. The tumors can develop. So that's why it takes a lot of research and a lot of years of this project. So see ya, Jordan. You don't know who Don is. I don't know who Don is. I'm not responsible to know every single breeder in the hobby. I know who Matt Sasselbeck is. I know who Manly Geckos is. I know who Ron Tremper is. I know who David's Finds Geckos is. I know who Q's Geckos is. I know who LM Gecko is. I know who Urban Gecko is. I know who Steve Sykes is. I know who so Geckos, etc. Gecko Boa, Suburban Gecko. I know who these guys are. I don't know Don. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I don't know every gecko breeder out there, but I know a lot of them. Yes, Oklana, you can argue that that is the same because we are taking the chance that geckos die, and Matt failed that chance and 800 geckos died. Matt, sorry to mention your specific name, but I had to mention the topic because of how many geckos you actually lost. And no, I don't believe it's your fault, but just to prove a point to Oklana, we can all get judgmental towards each other on some stuff if we really, really wanted to. But let's put our differences aside. Let's promote this hobby, guys. Let's have, you know, we need to have this live stream so that we can move on to like cool live streams, like cool animals that we're producing and projects that we have going on. But this conversation needs to take place. Yes, there were, Oklana. It was a genetic orange spot that started all of the tangerine geckos. Same with the bold stripes. It was a little bit more striping on animals that people started. Exactly, Oklana. They were selected because they already expressed the spontaneous mutation to a small degree. No matter what degree it was, they expressed the mutation to that small degree. So they already were carrying the beginnings of carrying that line bred trait. Can we change the topic? Your videos are very informative. Let's learn about geckos. We will do that tomorrow, Caleb, because we're going to end this stream sometime soon. I'm just going to quickly go through here. Oklana, being a part of the bad Matt years, I'm right there with you on that. So I don't know what that's in reference to. I never knew that Matt received any hate in the community. Check this out. This dude received hate when he left the community. And although I believe that he should have given the community a better answer for why he was leaving, his personal issues are his personal issues, and not everyone handles them the same way. And he went through some serious depression, and he's just now talking about it. And Matt, I give you credit, brother. You're my brother in the gecko hobby. If I could give you a hug, I would. Matt has so much respect by some of the top breeders in the industry, like Brian Barczyk, and I'm sure a lot of other breeders that have been in his shoes of observation, you know, a negative light. I'm not blaming Matt for anything, but when I was such a fan of Matt. It hurt me when I didn't see any more videos or content. That's why I started producing videos and content. You know, I can never replace Matt. I can never be a replacement to the history that had taken place in the past, but I could be a part of the future. And that's what I want for this hobby. I want to be one small part with all of you of the future moving forward in this hobby so that we can all invite more people into the hobby, talk about more hard to talk about conversations, show more cool projects we're working on, different genetics, different sciences, different observations, so that we can grow together as people and as a community. Good night, Jordan. As well, I will add you on Facebook and follow your adventure. That's for the argument that isn't politics. I feel like a new person now. For real, it was fun. I'll be watching. Thank you so much, Jordan. I really appreciate that. Don Hamilton, Highwood Exotics. I still don't know Highwood Exotics. He just recently left the hobby and was one of the highest quality breeders out there. That's great, Oklana. You know, there's a lot of high quality breeders out there. So I'm not sure what your point is. Maybe I should know him. Yeah, I didn't know him, but I knew a dozen other high quality breeders that existed. Lunation Geckos is my girl. Yeah, I don't know I'm not sure who Lunation Geckos is. Consider buying from them. Please judge us for our stuff. I welcome criticism if we begin breeding deformed animals knowingly. I'll state this like before. You can argue LF and Enigma the same, but you are comparing. Yeah, there are differences in every comparison, right, guys? So I think it's taken me a while to go through all the questions. Yeah, there we go. I'm at the bottom of the questions here. Do you just call Brian? Yeah, I do believe Brian Barczyk cares about his animals, and I don't have a problem with Brian Barczyk from what I've seen. Maybe there's stuff I don't see behind closed doors, but I know whenever you are in the spotlight, you're going to get a lot of hate, and that man gets a lot of hate for some of the same things that he does that other leopard gecko breeder does that don't get hate for. Let me mention suburban geckos. Suburban Geckos doesn't even give water to his geckos, guys. He doesn't give water to his geckos. He only sprays them once a week if he's able to, because he has so many geckos and a full-time job. He does not give water bowls to his geckos. Brian Barczyk at least gives water bowls to his geckos. So if you want to hold different levels of ethical standards, why can't I say that Chris is unethical for not giving water to his geckos? I'm not. Because I don't think Chris is unethical. I think he's perfectly justified according to the risk and comfort that he is okay with. Everyone is subject to the risk and comfort that they're okay with. Frank, the Matt reference I used was nothing to do about his personal issues. My concern is how he and I specifically had. Oh, I didn't know that you had a business problem with Matt. See? And again, guys, there's so many things that you don't know about behind closed doors about your favorite breeders. I try to be vulnerable, put myself out there, and open myself up to criticism and judgment. I don't like the idea of secrecy. You know what I mean? And if you like the idea of secrecy, I'm okay with that. But again, there's so many things that happen behind closed doors. I'm a big supporter of vulnerability, putting yourself out there, letting people see you for the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know? Brian doesn't know his genetics. Brian does know his genetics. Sorry to tell you. That man is like one of the genetic people. I don't want to use the term godfather, but he's one of the genetic godfathers of this hobby. Same with Kevin McCurley from Nerd. Man, these guys, they're pillars in our community for some of the things that they've discovered as far as reptile socialization, reptile genetics, reptile as a hobby. We wouldn't even have a hobby if it wasn't for some of these guys importing animals, breeding animals, so that you could have the right to pursue your zoo dreams. And yeah, Andrew, A lot of gecko breeders do that. But I just want to put that out there because I bet you some of the same people that are criticizing me, they don't know that maybe some geckos don't even use water bowls, and they might view that as something that's unethical, you know? Personally, I like to have a water bowl in the gecko's cage and try to get them fresh water at least twice a week, no matter how many geckos I have. And that's why I was giving Brian Barczyk credit, because he stated no matter how many geckos he has, and that man's got tens of thousands of animals and geckos, he wants to give every animal water. So I got to give him credit there. He literally doesn't know his Leo genetics. He does know his Leo genetics. Sorry to tell you. He didn't get to where he got by not knowing his stuff. So anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. The $20 of super chats, I'm not even sure all who that came from. Thank you, Lori Mitchell. Thank you, Oklana. Thank you, Sage. Thank you, Crescent, everybody, DBA, Andrew, Wally. Thank you for all being here, making yourself present and tying this community together. I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the night, but I hope to do more live streams like this. Spread the word. If you got any of your big breeder friends that want to bring me onto their live show or come onto a live show with me, we will talk about the actual research paper and what exists on lemon frost. If not, we will do our own video on the research paper of lemon frost, and I will see if my medical doctor friend wants to come on the show and support that topic with me. So thank you guys. I love you guys. Enemies, supporters, united. Good night. I appreciate all you guys being here. It means a lot. Have a Geeky Gecko great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you, Jake.